Get up in the morning time, making biscuits. Get up in the middle of a new day, biscuits. A friend of mine owns a farm, which I am standing on right now. And she and her husband have a problem. This is all the material that is coming out from the bedding for the many animals that they keep. They have goats and sheep and ducks and pigs and rabbits, and they have a lot of area right now that they're growing for forage crops. All these right here are forage. There's moringa in there and some other plant species that make a lot of good stuff for the animals to eat. Right here is some vines and bush that they cut today and brought up in order to feed to the animals. But the problem is, this is a very dry area. It's a ridge overlooking the ocean, and there's constant breezes coming through. And they sell the manure. And the manure is all mixed in with the dried fodder and what the animals don't eat. So there's a lot of dry grass in here and some bedding. And what has happened is, it's just sat and sat and sat. And so she said, how can I make this compost quickly? So today, for any of you out there who are wondering, how can you make things compost quickly? You know, I'm not a big fan of making a lot of rules, but there are a few things you can do which will speed up composting immensely. Number one, this material isn't composting quickly because it's not wet enough. It's composting down inside slowly, but this needs to be wet. Biological activity takes a lot of water, and if you've ever gone jogging, you know you have to stay hydrated, and a compost pile is the same thing. So when we've got, as you can see, it's breeze all the time. It's breeze, 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 breeze. They're running, you know, a windmill here for some of the power of the farm because they've got constant breeze, but the breeze dries the top of this out. So what happens is your bacteria and your fungi are just sitting, waiting for something to happen, and nothing's happening because it's too dry. That's problem number one. The second issue is that a lot of this material is too thin to get going hot. So it's sitting and it's rotting to a certain extent. You know, some of this manure is like pre-digested, look at that. But there's some fungal activity going on. You see the mold coming out of it, but still, this is very dry. This is wet right here. This is drying out. It's drying out and it needs to be re-wet. So this being so thin, it doesn't create the mass necessary for quick composting. This will burn down slowly. Eventually this will all turn to compost, but they want sellable material quickly. And so in order to get sellable material, we've got to stack it up in at least a cubic yard together. This is gonna rot, but it's gonna rot slowly. So if this was turned and stacked with the dry part on the inside wet down really well, it would get hot quickly and it would start to break down, and they would get, in about 6 weeks or so, they would have sellable material. Now another thing I asked about is, you see all this woody stuff? This stuff takes a lot longer to compost. Now it will compost. We have a tropical climate. Composts much faster than it would in, say, New Jersey, but you know, this is not going to compost all that quickly. So that's going to have to be sifted out at the end. So what needs to happen, this needs to be piled up, and it needs to be wet very well, and then it needs to be covered. And there's basically no way you're going to get too much water on it. So soak it really, really well, pack it into a nice pile, turn it over, pack it into a pile, soak it as you go, cover it with a tarp, cover it with some banana leaves, cover it with whatever you have, and then it's going to get hot and it's going to compost quickly. But otherwise, it's going to sit here dry until the rains come. It's going to compost a little underneath. You're going to have a lot of woody material in it that doesn't break down for a long time anyways, and then you just compound it by having it be, you know, just sitting and drying out and not being packed thick enough. But if you pack it all up, stack it up, water it, and cover it, it's going to hold in, the biological activity will increase and be much more profitable on the manure sales, because what you're going to end up with is a nice finished manure compost. The last thing you want to do after all of that is get a sifter. Get one of those sifters that hangs on chains with some hardware cloth. Actually, right over here, there's some hardware cloth on the side of this goat stand right here. Hey ladies, you see this material? That's your hardware cloth. You make a nice frame out of that. Hey, how you doing? Make a nice frame out of that, and then use it as a sifter. Hang it underneath trees or a frame or something, and then shovel the mostly finished material on it, and that will get out the rest of the sticks and the material that didn't break down and give a superior product at the end of it, which you can then turn around and sell at a premium because it's beautiful, sifted compost. So there's my 2 cents on how can you get all this material to compost down. And I want to thank my friend June for letting me come by her farm and take a look. And thank you all for joining me. Until next time, may your thumbs always be green. Do you throw banana peels in the trash? Are your coffee grounds also being thrown in the trash? Do you compost ham? Are you sick and tired of all the rules about composting? Do you wish you could compost in a super easy way? And stop throwing things in a landfill? And stop being a terrible person? Click on the link below and sign up and get my new composting booklet, which shows you how to compost easily and simply with hardly any work at all. It's insane how easy it is because it follows natural principles. Sign up now. Quantities are not limited. This little baby goat here is so sweet. She's bottle fed and my kids got to feed her. She's really something else. If I didn't know what destructive forces goats were, I would want to adopt her. Right? But you'd destroy my trees, wouldn't you? Yes, and all the gardens. Right? And all the roses.